1 in 3 American men have stopped working or looking for work. They have simply walked away. Right now, tens of millions of people are withdrawing from their jobs, their doctors, and the voting booth. Yet the official unemployment rate sits at a stable 4.2%. That figure describes a country where the market is functioning, and anyone who wants work can find it. But that number is built on a rule almost nobody knows about. It only counts people who are actively searching. The moment you stop, the moment you decide you are done, the government stops counting you. You vanish from the data entirely. In April 2026, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that 6 million Americans want a job, but are invisible in the headline number because they didn't look in the previous month. Nearly 500,000 of those people told the government directly they believe no opportunities exist for them at all. Workers are staying put because they see nowhere to go. The quits rate, a measure of how confident workers actually feel, has fallen to cycle lows. Right now, Americans believe they have only a 45% chance of finding a new job within 3 months. That is lower than the confidence level recorded during the global shutdowns of 2020. Every time another person gives up, the unemployment rate drops. The system is structured so that its own failure makes it appear to be working. It is an accounting illusion. The 6 million who stopped looking are only part of the picture. Half of the American workforce is now classified by Gallup as quietly disengaged. They are still clocking in, but they have made an internal decision to do only the bare minimum required to keep the paycheck. This is a structural collapse in the relationship between effort and reward. Between 1979 and 2024, worker productivity grew by 80%, but compensation grew by only 29%. The economy became more productive, yet workers captured barely a third of the value they generated. Major executives report they have no plans to increase headcount in 2026. This freezes the market. Workers cannot leave for something better because nothing better is hiring, and they cannot negotiate because advancement has been paused. They stay, and they quietly stop giving everything they have. This disconnect is hitting young men the hardest. The Federal Reserve found that 16% of men aged 18 to 24 are neither employed nor enrolled in any form of education or training. The sectors where young men traditionally built careers, like information and transportation, are contracting. Meanwhile, male college enrollment fell by 1 million in a decade. A society that loses its young men to isolation loses the people who were supposed to form the next generation of institutions. For 45 years, the contract between productivity and pay has been broken. For millions, the most rational response is to stop honoring an agreement that the other side abandoned first. This pattern of withdrawal is now visible in the democratic process. In 2024, 88 million eligible Americans did not vote. More than 1/3 of the country looked at what was called the most consequential election in a generation and decided their participation was not worth the effort. This isn't simple apathy. Only 33% of young Americans believe the 2026 midterm elections will be conducted freely. This distrust is not partisan. Young people across the political spectrum have lost confidence in the legitimacy of the process itself. Confidence is falling everywhere. Congressional approval sits at 7%. Presidential approval dropped 15 points in a single year, and confidence in the Supreme Court fell double digits. Behind these institutions, 348,000 federal positions have been eliminated since 2024. These jobs were historically one of the most reliable pathways into the middle class for veterans and minority workers. Now, those people are being pushed into a private sector job market that is already frozen. While this is often described as trimming waste, look at the specific functions that are stopping. The USDA eliminated the reports the government used to track how many Americans go hungry. The FDA cut the scientists whose specific job was preventing contamination in infant formula. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, built to stop predatory lending, has been systematically defunded. This muzzles the financial watchdog at the exact moment 111 million Americans are carrying unsustainable credit card debt. When someone stops voting, or an agency stops monitoring food safety, they are withdrawing consent from the system. The legitimacy of representative government rests on the idea that the people have a voice and a protector. When those rules are quietly erased, the contract dissolves. This withdrawal is hollowing out our local communities. For the first time in 80 years, less than half of the country belongs to a house of worship. This is the loss of our most widespread community infrastructure, the places where neighbors noticed if you hadn't shown up and reached out to check on you. Fraternal organizations like the VFW and the Rotary Club are losing members steadily. As these structures dissolve, loneliness fills the space. Young people today spend 70. Even the systems built to keep us alive have become wealth extraction traps. A family of 4 paying $1,800 a month for health insurance can still owe over $6,000 in deductibles before their coverage pays for a single appointment. Look at the math for a specialist visit. An insured family paying toward their deductible might be billed $2,000 for care that an uninsured patient would get for $940. In many cases, having insurance makes a visit twice as expensive as paying nothing at all. Because of this cost, 1 in 5 Americans did not fill a prescription last year. 1 in 7 cut pills in half to stretch their supply. 26,000 Americans die every year, not from lack of medicine, but from lack of financial access to be seen before their condition becomes fatal. When the structures meant to protect you begin to extract your wealth, opting out becomes a matter of financial survival. The workers who stop applying, the voters who stay home, and the patients choosing pain over a bill they cannot pay are all telling the same story. 80 million people have looked at the arithmetic and concluded the numbers no longer support the promise. Real wages for lower-income workers grew less than 1%, while the cost of living grew 3%. Working harder is making people poorer. Consequently, the average age of a first-time homebuyer hit 40 in 2025. People aren't saving for retirement because when your financial buffer is less than $1,000, a 40-year investment plan feels like a punchline. This withdrawal eventually moves inward. Planning for the future stops feeling like ambition and starts feeling like wishful thinking. This is the moment you replace long-term goals with one thought. This is just what it is now. The psychiatric data shows the fallout. 90% of the country describes the national mental health situation as a crisis. Only 29% of Americans rate their own mental health as excellent, the lowest percentage in history. When people describe themselves as spiritually depleted or exhausted in a way sleep doesn't fix, they are describing a collective condition. This is the final form of checking out, the moment the future stops being something you genuinely believe in. But if you are still watching this, some part of you is still paying attention. You are looking for the pattern because you believe that seeing the situation clearly is the beginning of something better. Stop waiting for the system to fix itself. The people running it are not motivated to change the accounting illusions that make their failure look like success. Build your own stability where you can. Create a real financial buffer. Stock a pantry so a disruption is an inconvenience rather than an emergency. And learn a skill that belongs to you regardless of what the market does next. Finally, talk to someone. Not about politics, but about how you are actually doing. The feeling that the future has gotten smaller isn't resolved by policy. It's resolved by one person telling another, "I see you, and you are not alone in this." Refuse to disappear. Subscribe to stay connected to the real data, and tell us in the comments, which part of this broken contract has hit closest to home for you?